So in this realm of NgalSo, they are by the force of the karma, the beings are born, and then they have a strong anger or very great aggressiveness or anger rise automatically in their mind. Then as soon as one sees the other, then immediately start to fight, and then karmically the weapons come in their hands, and with that they hit each other and shoot each other, and this way they all like die for the momentary death, and then again they come to life again, and then this way they spend of destroying each other for thousands and thousands of kalpas. And also in other realms of the hell, they are by the force of their karma, the particular karma, then they go through various very suffering experiences, experiences such as they experience as if they are being completely cooked or roasted completely, or burned into the fire, cooked into like lava like liquid, and like this, and they constantly encounter these very fearful forms. So with this kind of experience, they go through these kind of experiences. For example, in the realm of Ngumbu, then they are the beings out of their by their karma. Then they realize that they are in trouble. They are born into a very undesirable place, and so they try to sort of escape. They sort of seek for refuge, and then they encounter certain place of refuge, like a house and like this. And as they enter, then again it burns or completely heated or burns, and this way they suffer great suffering mentally, great great depression and frustration in the mind, and physically also strong heat and so on. And in certain hells it is also explained that by the force of their karma, then to make the suffering, to cause the suffering even greater, the body is something very large, very, very large, so which causes even greater suffering when it encounters all these kinds of circumstances of suffering, such as cutting their body into pieces, and sometimes plowing plowing over their body, over their tongues and like this, and all these variety of different suffering experiences. So there are 8 hot hells and 8 cold hells. Each cannot be explained in detail. The first of the hot hell, that is called NgalSo, that is where there is the suffering from the weapons. Then there is there are 2 realms where the being suffered by yes, in this first and second and third, they experience the suffering from being locked up in a house in which is burned and so on, and there are those 2 are similar types of suffering, but there are different degrees of suffering. And then in the fourth realm, the being suffers from being encountering these fearful, very frightening figures which harms them or destroys them and cooks them and roasts and so on. And then there is this the next one where the huge body of the being is being cut and plowed and so on. And then there is a realm which is called Dunjom, where one experiences being completely squeezed, like between 2 mountains. Like one experiences like mountains, great mountains, coming from different sides, and so one is squeezed in between the 2, in between mountains. And then there is Narme, that is the lowest or the heaviest realm of the hot hell, where the being suffers from where the being suffers from being burned from 11 types of fire coming from 4 cardinal directions, and semi-cardinal directions 10, and 1 from inside of the body itself. So altogether, and in short, it's the body the being becomes completely integrated with the fire. The consciousness completely become integrated with the fire, and then for a long time, until this particular karma is ceased, then being consciousness constantly suffers in this great heat of fire. So those are the 8 hot hells, realms of the hot hell.
Lam Rim Chen Mo on the Hong Yedu, Rangshin Yawatin Leve Susu Lula Sadang Dominion, or the day by Yam Turn, Shina Jia, Yan, Shambaloya, Tabsi, and Lamagudu Suata, to the Sundi and the Toba Juji.
So this kind of the explanation or the understanding of these the sufferings of different hell realms, one should not take consider it as like a story about some strange land or like a fairy tale, something like that. we should not see it sort of far away. Or the way to meditate about on them is one imagines as if one is going through all these sufferings, taking these sufferings by the force of unwholesome actions that we have accumulated, then actually to take as if we are born, take birth into these different types of the hell realms and taking the experience of the suffering. In this way, one should take this explanation. So, in fact, those are 8 major experience of the hot hell, but there are also many different details, and also there are many subdivisions of these realms, depending on the variety of the karmas, the sufferings one suffers in those realms are also quite innumerable and can or many different kinds, in many different ways. And then there are 8 cold ones. And these 8 cold hells, they are the same types of suffering, but one is 20 times stronger than the other. So the suffering is greater and greater for 20 times. And the main cause of suffering is from the sensation of the cold, extreme coldness by the force of particular karmas. Then they experience extreme cold by encountering with very circumstances to give coldness, such as ice and then wind, called very cold, very cool wind, and also snowing, and then also the floor is all completely ice, and also no warmth of any kind, no fire, no heat of sun, anything like this, total darkness. This kind of environment is experienced by the beings. And so although how cold one feels, there's no way at all to warm, to get even slightest warmth. There's no one cannot cover one's body, or there's no sun, no heating system, or anything like that, and one constantly suffers from the cold, and also have also with a very large body, which adds to the suffering, and then body completely burst because by the extreme coldness, and so there are also these different realms are given names by the degrees of the suffering they have, and some are called the shivering, the realm, and the bursting realm, and so and so on. So so the and the one um, um, one reason, one sort of distinguished quality of the hell bodies in both cold or hot hell is that usually in other types of the body, like our own, if for example, if a finger is cut, once it is separated from the main body, that piece is not has no relation anymore and has no sensation anymore. But the body of the hell beings, by their karma, then although they are in many pieces, but all those pieces are possessed by the consciousness, so that even they are separated, then not only the main body feels it, but that piece also feels the same. So that adds up very much to the great suffering. So so this is all by the force of one's very unwholesome or negative karma one has accumulated. So all these kind of environments and experiences are possible. For example, nowadays in such cold weather, then to stand naked outside on the street, even for a few minutes, for us for a few minutes or some hours, would be quite impossible. We wouldn't bear it. And a fire so little as the incense fire, if we can't bear it, touch of that on our hand. And but by the force of the unwholesome actions, we accumulate we accumulate the necessary cause. We take birth. If we take birth in such realms, like just explained before, then whether we like or not, then we have to bear it, even such a great heat or cold or whatever. One has to bear it. There's no other way. And also the duration, the lifespan is so long. It can, depending on the degree of the karma, say some last till the end of the for a whole eon or a whole kalpa ends. And so that is the suffering of the hell, the heaviest suffering. And then the second level of the suffering in the unfortunate realm is that of preta, where the major suffering is caused by hunger and thirst. So we'll make a short pause, about 2 minutes, just to stretch your legs and do some exercise. So when one meditates, it's very important to after the end of each meditation, end of each point of meditation, one visualize the Guru on one's head and pray and make a request to the Guru to bestow the blessing of the Guru to in order to gain the perfect, the correct realization of that point. that point of the Dharma in our mind. So, to gain realization does not mean that then all of a sudden then one starts seeing or getting some visions or to see some odd things or to feel some sensations or or anything like that. That is not what is called to gain realization. The true meaning of that is to whatever we are meditating about, to gain a direct and very clear realization of it, which sort of arises spontaneously, very deeply, and very whatever it is, it's the recognition of human rebirth, or the certainty of the impermanence, or the suffering of these different realms, whatever, to gain a real, very clear insight, clear and very direct and clear insight, which arises spontaneously in one's mind, then we have gained realization of that point. So of course one cannot meditate in one session, or like in one meditation cannot think about all different points. So so one must meditate one by one, gradually, slowly and gradually. One must meditate on these points, for example, about the sufferings of the different hell realms, like that. One first makes the offering to the Guru and makes the prayers to the Guru and so on, and then one meditate on one particular point of the subject of the Dharma, and then stick to that very point. And even if some other Dharma thoughts, some other points of the Dharma arising in the mind, at that moment it's also a kind of distraction. So we must put that aside. Otherwise, our mind will get the habit to always to think something else while we are involved with another. So so therefore we shouldn't let the mind to run after that. Even if it's an important point, for that moment, put that aside and stick to one's own the point, and then move to another point. And so this way the meditation will be very very accurate. And in the same so in the same way, if one is going to meditate on the sufferings of the cold hells, and first make the prayers and in a sort of preparation, and then one generate the intention, one intend to meditate on a certain point, and then one follows the intention and then practice the meditation. Then it will be so whatever one meditates, first one must intend to meditate on that point, and make this way we make the preparation, and we follow that plan. that is very helpful. If we get used to it, then afterwards we will have full control over one's meditation. One will be able to meditate, direct one's mind, direct one's meditation in whatever way one wishes. Otherwise, if we let just completely let the mind free, and then sometimes it thinks about something, then let it go there, and sometimes something else, then it runs there. Then we get a very get a bad habit. Mind gets bad habit of always distracting like this, and this way the meditation will never be successful. Now Kyabje Rinpoche will explain a little bit about the sufferings of the pretas. There are 36 major realms of the pretas. But there are also pretas which are called scattered ones, which can be even in our world, in the human world also, which we may not directly perceive them, but they are around. They are called the scattered ones. So these unfortunate beings from the beginning of their life, as soon as they're born in that realm, with that body, then they immediately feel great hunger. Karmically, they feel very great hunger, and so with this desire, they spend all their time. So there's a story from a great disciple of the Buddha who was called Gindin Sung, and one time when he was a merchant or something like that, he was returning from the sea. Then on the way in a great desert, then he encountered a preta mother with a very disagreeable form, with a very huge belly and a very huge goiter around the neck, so heavy that hardly can lift its head, and with 500 kids. So this Gindusung, his boat broke, and so he had separated from his other companions, and he was traveling alone on the returning from the sea, and then he got completely lost, and then he encountered in some place he encountered these strange beings. And then this Gindusung asked to this mother preta who she was, and she said she is a preta, and she could remember very well why she was born as a preta. She recalled that she was a landlady in some India in some house, and she had many servants, many people working under her, and she was never feeding them properly, but she was always eating herself. and secretly she was eating all the time, and she was never feeding the people enough.
Mama Jimmy Chu to Chivio, Junior Sungio. Junior Sundu, young Chuva Chuva, she had Chuya, and the Sheriff Chuva. Tichua is a Yida and dog, Yambu Chuto Chiori.
And then she used to be, she used to, in her past life, she remembered she used to observe sometimes certain precepts, like precepts of fasting, precepts and like that, like the 8 precepts. But again she broke those 8 precepts on that day. She on that day usually to put makeup or to put perfume was not allowed on that day. But then she broke it by putting perfumes and makeup and so on. And as a result of that, she in that life, as a preta, she had this most horrible looking form. And also she remembered that she on the day of observation of the fasting observation, on the observation of the shilas, where actually one must abstain from eating garlics, onions and garlics and so on. But then she broke that rule again by eating some garlic. As a result of that, in the life of Preta, in her life of Preta, she smelled, she had a very horrible sting around, all around her body. And she had these 500 children, and she could not feed them with anything. For 12 years she couldn't feed them with anything, and all together they were all suffering very greatly. For a human being cannot live without any food and drink more than a week. And so this Mother Preta has sent a message by the Gendun that her husband, who was a Preta, went to look for some food since 12 years and never came back. So she told Gendun to, if ever he encounters her husband, to report, to give the report of their situation, and to tell him to return as soon as possible. So then Gildusu said that how could he recognize her husband, and then she said he used to be one of the weakest preta, with most horrible form, with only one eye, and the one hand is completely crippled and on the turned backward, something, and with only with one leg, and very weak and very looking the poorest of all the pretas. So there's no way to mistake. So Kyabje Rinpoche says that usually when giving Lam Rim teaching, it is very beneficial and it's very important to tell many stories in details about sufferings of the sentient beings, as well as about the lives of great masters and Buddhas and their deeds and so on. Many stories must be explained, because it helps very much to gain a very clear insight into the Dharma. So that's how it is usually done. But since we have very limited time, he wouldn't be able to explain many stories and so on in details. However, just as a symbol, he is telling us some of these stories. And then there's still a long story in between, and finally this Gindu has found the husband of this preta, and sure enough he was a very poor looking and with all these things, characteristics, and then he gave the message, and then he said that let alone any all what he could find for 12 years is this. He showed in his hand a dried, completely dried spit. So it is somebody has spit, somebody with sort of pure mind, with a good sort of good state, virtuous state of mind, has spit once, and that he obtained, because anything else he could find is always taken away, snatched by his other pretas, other spirits who are more powerful. So he couldn't get anything, and this that he had in his hand for so long time. And then he showed this dried spit, and he said this is also, he still could hold it in his hand, thanks to the Gindin Sung, thanks to this this person. Otherwise somebody, other pretas would have already taken away, and he also, for that, he has already received lots of tortures, lots of beatings and so on from other pretas. Then the Gidusung asked what was the reason that he for his blindness, that he has only one eye, and then this preta recalled his former life, that in where he has beaten a goat. How do you call the kids of goats? Kids, they are kids, exactly. Right? Yes. So he has bitten a kid, and so that on the punched on the eye of that kid, and so became blind. As a result of that, he got this. He lost one eye. And the reason for his crippled arm was in one of the former lives. He was drying some grain, and then a calf came by to eat some of this grain, and he had bitten that calf with a stick and broken one of the forearm of the calf. There are more details of this, but we think that would be about enough. So, so many of these pretas go through similar kind of experiences, and always striving for something to eat. There are a type of a type of pretas who suffering from hunger and thirst, but who can't see anything, no food, no drink, who are unable to see anything. And there are other types who sees in the distance, who sees river or stream or food as it approaches the place. Then there's only rocks or pebbles, or just a desert or like that. And sometimes sees from distance a tree, very beautiful tree with all beautiful fruits and so on, and as it nears the tree, then it is a completely dried, completely barren tree without any fruits, leaves or anything. Or sometimes, although they get water or something, then or food, when they go to take it in mouth, then it changes into blood or mucus or anything like that, very into something uneatable. Sometimes even if because of so much hunger they still try to eat it, then they completely evaporates and disappears. And in the cold time, like in the winter, then even sunlight sunlight is also very cooling for them. And in the hot season, when it's warm, then even the moonlight is also very heating for them. And there are the predators, most of them, they are very weak body, very disagreeable, and very thin, very weak, very skinny body, and when the joints when joints move or bend, then it gives a great suffering, and flames come. So, so this way we should meditate on all these great sufferings of the preta realms, not only just an object to analyze, but to take it upon oneself as we are going through such a suffering. In this way, one should meditate until they become, until we get a very clear and direct insight into this, and then. The celestial enjoyments and so on, but after that, now I know where I'm going really, and it's really so horrible. Then I have to spend so long time kalpas in such a great suffering, and it's unbearable. And he said, now I see that holy samsara is wherever I am, up or down, is completely unreliable, and so exist of the nature of this suffering. So now what I seek is a complete liberation, complete freedom from the whole bondage of the samsara. And then the real motivation of the renunciation, pure renunciation, has developed in him. And then Buddha gave him teachings. Then his shila, or his precept, become a real pure shila. For the shila, shila which leads to the complete liberation. And then Buddha gave him the teaching of the egolessness and non-self-existence of the shunyata, and he meditated, and immediately in one meditation, then he attained the state of stream entry, Arya stage, and then in one session of meditation he attained the Arhat stage, and thus attained the nirvana, the liberation, and now he is one of the one object of refuge. He has become also an object of refuge for other beings.
Sanje Tokyo Sore Mado, Jeme Lama Surujine, Holichushi, Koranande, Chumadanyadi, Anjo Negmari, Nani Achi, the Negatoni Tugumari, just Sanje Gali Nani Achi, Tenik Chuma the Chaba, the Hachi, Tivam Evaso. That Hali Chadeva, Nyawaji, Tamu was some Minjunchi, Tenis she thought soon about doing Totoyat, and she started again.
So those are the extraordinary skill, or the method of the Buddha, which no ordinary people or no ordinary master can help. Because if some, for example, Nanda, because of his strong attachment, he first of all wouldn't listen to the teaching and wouldn't come around to receive teaching, and even if someone gives teaching, then he would not understand it or accept it, and even by force make him a monk, then anyway inside is not changed, so therefore it wouldn't be of real great benefit. But Buddha, out of his great wisdom and the extraordinary skill, led him stage by stage with all these very skillful methods, so everything has changed naturally from inside of him without forcing from outside. And then there was another incident which also another disciple of Buddha, who was called Lam in Tibetan, and he was so dumb, so stupid child. When he was little, he has been sent to one of the Brahmin schools, and they taught him one word, that Swati, and but he can't learn it, even this word. When he learns saw, then he forgets ti. When he learns ti, he forgets saw. So they thought it's completely hopeless, and they kicked him out of the school. Same, and he was sent to another school. There again, same thing happened. So after 3 months, they sent him away. So this repeated several times, and then he found completely, he was so depressed, and then he was just sitting by the side of the road, and he thinks he's really stupid and he cannot learn anything, and he was crying. But this person had also a certain imprint ripening in him from the past, and so Buddha passed by that road, and he came in front of him and asked, "What's wrong? Why you are crying?"
Kabachina load again, and I found a little to me, seeing love my two dollars soon be down to Sunday, NgalSo Kunshaya Meadows movie.
So he said, I'm crying because I find myself so stupid and could not learn anything. I've been to these schools, but I've been put away, and now I can't learn anything. I learn no skill, so I will have a very hard life. And then Buddhas then come with me, and I will keep you, and you will get food to eat and so on. But then he got afraid. He said that's also going to end up with the same thing after some time. He said he thought that this person will also put me aside after some time, and he said, but I don't think it would be any use because I can't learn anything, and I'm very stupid. I'm very weak and very stupid. And Buddha asked him whether he can sweep the floors, and he said that I can. And then Buddha took him with and made him a monk, and gave him the job to sweep the floor. But at the sweeping floor, one must, when one sweeps the floor, one must recite these two phrases: the dulpang timapang, the dulpang, abandon, purify or abandon the dirt, and abandon the defilement. That's one must repeat during sweeping. But he couldn't learn that again, so Buddha made him to polish or to clean the sandals of the monks. And then Buddha told the monks, whenever he comes around cleaning their shoes, the monks should recite always Dupang Timapang and like that. And then he was he was working very hard and going to each monk and always cleaning their shoes, and then he always constantly heard this sound from everybody, this Dupang Timapang, Dupang Timapang. So after some time, without being taught by anybody, he has learned naturally these two phrases. So he could learn that after, because by cleaning the shoes of the monks, that has a little bit purified his mind and these obstacles. So and then with the skillful method he learned them. Then while the monks were reciting, he was also reciting with them and cleaning the shoes. Then when he learned that, then Buddha said, now you don't need to clean the shoes anymore. Now you rather take the job of the sweeper. So he started sweeping floors with the same phrase. And then because he has a very very heavy or very thick sort of a layer of ignorance, so that needs to be cleaned, that needs to be purified. So Buddha, when he was sweeping the floor again, Buddha blessed in such a way that this dust would never cease, it would always keep coming. So he spent all time cleaning the temples and so on. So with this effort, then his ignorance has a little bit sort of gone down, and then slowly, not only he understood he could repeat those phrases, but he slowly came to understand the meaning of those two phrases. And then after he came to understand deeper and deeper the meaning of these two phrases, and then he came to realize that this abandon the dust and clean the defilement does not just mean cleaning the dust, the external dust, but he understood the deeper meaning, the secret meaning of this, which is the dust, the inner defilement, the inner dust or inner dirt, the ignorance of the mind, and this could be cleaned with by the power of the wisdom, which realized the egolessness, the non-self existence, and that he understood. And then while cleaning, he was still with the broom in his hand, he meditated on the contemplated very deeply on the meaning of those two phrases, and he attained he realized the shunyata, or the non-self nature, and became an arhat. And although he has become an arhat, the other people, they couldn't see his real attainment from outside, and they still thought he's that dumb monk. And so Buddha thought that these monks, these ordinary monks, abusing an arhat, a monk who has already attained the liberation, an arhat, to abuse and to disrespect would be a cause for very unwholesome action. So therefore now it's time to show his real qualities, and so therefore nearby there is a big nunnery with many bhikshunis. There are 500 bhikshunis who are residing, and there twice a month a bhikshu must go there to give some teachings. And then so that time Buddha told, now the next turn is the Lam Chungpa is going there to give the teaching. So the 8th and the 15th of the lunar month, then the monk comes and gives the teaching of Dharma. So then the bhikshunis were inquiring who is going to come, who is the next monk, and they heard it is Lam Chungpa. Then they thought, now it is really too much. Now these monks were really abusing them and sending such a dumb monk, like who even cannot memorize Swati, these two syllables. Now they thought, now this is really too much. So then the bhikshunis are now, the monks are really abusing us very much, so now we will give them a lesson. So they on that day when Lam Chung was coming to them, they built a throne which is very high, about the oversized, it's very high, but with no stairs, no steps to climb. And then the Lam Chungpa, who was a very humble and peaceful monk, came and in the temple of the bhikshunis all sat there, and he came straight, and when he reached the throne, then he found this unusually high throne, higher than his own body, and with no means to get on top. And then he just he thought, is this really out of a really great respect, or it is to challenge him? And then he realized their real intention. There's a difference between arhats, ordinary arhats, and Buddha. The arhats, although they are clairvoyant, but they don't. They are not omniscient. That means they, in order to know something, they must think first why it is, and so and when they think, as soon as they think, they immediately they know the secret. But Buddha, or Buddha's omniscience is spontaneous. It doesn't require any effort. So it's sort of all the time, all perceiving, and all sort of omnipresent. So therefore, the thought and conceptions are not necessary. He just knows it. So so the Arhat thought for a moment why they have made such a throne, and he realized the reason. And then the Lam Chumpa wanted to show the power in order to help all those bhikshunis. So he raised his arms, stretched his arms like a trunk of an elephant, and then he pressed down this high throne and made it very low, and he sat on it, and then it raised up as it was before. And then the bhikshunis realized the difference, the change. They thought, now this monk has really attained some power. He's no more that dumb monk. And then they felt a great respect to him, and then they made the prostrations and received teachings. So then he told the assembly that he would give the teaching of those two phrases with which he started with great difficulty his study of the Dharma, his practice of the Dharma, and he started to explain the meaning of those two phrases: abandon the dust and clean the defilement. And it lasts for a long time, for a year, to complete the real meaning of these words. And already before half the teaching goes on for all day, and before the midday, all the bhikshunis gathered there most of them have attained Arya stage and have realized the shunyata, because his way of teaching was so skillful and so profound. And he is also one of the great arhats, so-called the 16 arhats, who has not 16 arhats who is not passed away but still living in the world and helping the sentient beings in various ways.